I took. It was the best train I've ever taken in my life, I'll tell you.
I'm telling you,
From Philly.
trains are having a comeback.
It was awesome. Were we live? It
We're
was, I went from Philly to New York City, Penn Station, in something called the Excelsior. I know Zach is from a big city, so he knows it. It looks like a Japanese speed train, and it was amazing. It was amazing. We splurged the extra $50 for first class, and it was just like perfect. Not going to an airport, priceless.
Yeah, well, good morning, everybody. We're just catching up on our love of trains. Thanks for joining. We're going to let folks get settled in. Hope everyone's having a great start to me. We're kicking off the summer here, Bassem. It's May 13th.
Isn't that insane? So you know what else happened? Major milestone. My son turned 13. So I have a teenager now.
Big moment.
It's frightening. It's frightening. It ages me radically is what the... There's a couple of so I'm in New York right now, and what ages you radically as well is going to meetings and people saying, "Oh, I met you 20 years ago." I'm like, "Oh, when I was 9? How did we meet that?"
Yeah. I was 19 20 years ago. I'm 39 now.
It's awful. I'm old.
Time certainly flies. And speaking of time flying, we only have so much time today. So
yes.
We're going to jump into it. Time will fly.
Yeah.
I want to thank everybody for joining. Before I kick us off, we have a new face on the call. Zach, you want to do a quick intro for us?
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Zach. I went to Syracuse University. I've been here for 8 or 9 months at Briq. I run a lot of the marketing initiatives, a lot of the go-to-market motion, a lot of the AI sort of external marketing stuff that hopefully you guys are seeing. But yeah, this is my first webinar, so excited to be here.
And Zach, fun fact. Well, give us a fun fact.
That's true.
Yeah. I'm big into biking, as you can see. I've done a few races. My longest one was 112 miles in one day, so that was.
Oh my God.
That was a lot, but
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. We're representing 3 generations here. What are you? So Ellis, you're officially millennial?
Officially millennial, correct.
Yes. I'm Generation X, and this child, Zach, is Generation Z. Literally, Gen Z. That's what your nickname is now, officially.
I'll take it.
3 generations. I love it. Well, everyone, thanks again for joining. Topic of today is to talk about building an AI roadmap. And really, you can't talk about building a roadmap without really talking about everything that's happening in the AI world. Bassem, you're in New York right now, meeting with some of our customers and future customers. So would love to hear kind of what you're hearing from those contractors. But I like to kind of use the analogy of, and I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see here. Do present full screen. You guys see that full screen? Of Tetris. Really, when we're talking about a roadmap, we're talking about fitting in lots of different pieces and components and competitive ideas. When we think about roadmap, like how do you define this with current customers, Bassem? How do you talk about this with prospects? What's your definition of a roadmap, really?
First of all, I love this graphic, and I didn't see it before the webinar, so this is amazing. I think this is the best analogy for what I'm seeing today. People want to use AI, but they don't know how to fit it into anything. And so, I hate to use the term AI tourism, but like the idea that we're going to try something and then if it fails, it doesn't break anything. So we're just going to move on to the next shiny object. I think what you really need to do, and going into this meeting and saying, I'm going to build an AI roadmap is the wrong mentality. What you want to really do is, these are my problems. AI might be able to solve them. Come in with an ounce of skepticism and say, yes, AI is going to solve them, or they're not. But I think, Ellis, just to relate it to a story that is resonating with a lot of folks over the last few months anyway, is when I talk about my days at CMIC, I talk about the fact that CMIC in the early days was growing because we ran on Windows. That's how old I am. Gen Z, remember? Or Gen X, remember? So the fact is that we ran on Windows. There was a major transition from green screen to PCs, and that's one big thing. And they weren't like, hey, I want to solve a problem. There was a technology shift, and people were starting to use PCs. The next technology shift I got to be a part of was mobile and web at Procore. People, we weren't better at Procore than Prolog or Expedition. Again, old school CD-based project management tools. We weren't better than them. We just rode the technology wave of being in a web browser or being on an iPhone or a tablet. And they didn't, nobody came in and was like an iPhone tourist. They said, we're going to get off of a PC and we're going to go to the web. And that's how Procore does it. And I want people to think about the fact that there's a third turning here. It's the AI first turning. It's not, hey, there's a, Copilot sub agent on, SharePoint all of a sudden, and that's AI, because it's not. I think the reality is like, just like Tetris, you're going to get a lot. If you try to only find the piece that you're trying to fit and not look at it as a vast tapestry, not looking to complete the line, AI is not going to deliver anything to you, because this isn't a shift from, hey, I'm going to run Procore or ACC and then run some AI platform. It's that I'm going to be AI first in everything I do. And it's a subtle difference, but a pretty major difference.
Yeah. And I think when we always go through this, Bass, we talk about, look, AI is a cool technology, everyone's thinking about it, but at the end of the day, we're trying to solve a problem, right?
That's right.
It comes down to like, what's the business problem? And I think, we talk about Tetris is joke, but like, we're playing Tetris on hard mode. Sometimes,
yeah.
I mean, we're in construction, we're like actually physically playing Tetris, fitting things together. And really everyone and every department is playing their own board. It's a really hard problem. What are some of the problems that, when you think about this, like, what are the problems that AI is good at solving for in different departments?
I'm going to give you a great example. I'm not going to name the contractor we had. It's a long-term customer, and we went in to show Gen 6. So I sat down with them in New York. Typical beautiful offices, overlooking everything. It's beautiful. And we go in, and the estimators are in the room. Business development didn't show up yet. And we were sitting in the room, and I was like, hey, here's, Lead Genius, which is part of Gen 6. And in Lead Genius, we used AI to look. Happened to be a general contractor. So we use AI to look for potential developments or leads, let's call them, or signals to say, hey, there's a construction project coming. A developer just bought and combined a bunch of land. You want to be the first in for the first to win. And the estimators go, well, that's sexy and fun, but we only do estimating. Let BD hear about that. So business development came into the room. We said that. What estimating didn't realize is everything that business development does, which is manual if they're using Salesforce or CoCentral or some CRM, needs to be handed off to estimating. When you get a lead and there's drawings and documents attached, and they've downloaded that on their C drive or whatever, they somehow have to communicate that back to the estimators. And what I think is the biggest issue on hard mode is everybody's so myopic. They have the blinders on. This is the problem that I'm solving in this department. When in reality, it's a lead to award problem. It's not a problem about, I'm an estimator, I need to understand this. I'm just trying, it's not to pick on Zach anymore, but it's like it's that really like everybody gets a gold medal moment in Gen Z. But the reality is like,
it's not your fault.
But the reality is like, you shouldn't be buying AI to solve like some esoteric issue in estimating. You should be buying AI to solve the vast tapestry of issues you have. And it only gets harder when you isolate AI to these individual solutions. Like, I want to be able to do a submittal better. Well, a submittal is 1/100th of a construction project. You want to do a construction project better. You want to run a better business, not run a better submittal process. And I think that's what breaks when we talk about AI. And us as AI vendors, we should stop being so desperate for clients and start saying to clients, your systems are broken. The process is broken. AI can fix it, but we have to start looking at it end to end, or you're always going to be in hard mode, because an estimator needs to know what the BD person did, and the project manager needs to know what the estimator was thinking. And right now, the way we are siloed between Building Connected, Salesforce, Procore, or ACC, none of that gets translated through. And that's what AI can fix. That's the difference. That is the difference.
Yeah. And I will also say that, I've kind of said this before. I think the way that you, like an individual, uses AI is very different than the way that an enterprise needs to think about AI. Because what's happening now is that, look, Bassem, everyone's using maybe ChatGPT or Copilot or even Claude. Right. But you look at this screen, if operations is using it and finance is using a different instance, and field is it, there's no kind of memory about the business. Because what is AI's, most powerful ability? It's context, it's learning. It learns how the business runs. And if you have a bunch of point, AI tools, you're going to say, what are the same problem that you ran into with, kind of the old software? You have all these point solutions.
There's two stories I want to tell about that. One is the number one thing that resonated with everybody from Philadelphia to New York to Boston on this trip was one screen that's in the Genius app, which is, here is every single invocation of an AI call. One screen. So in Auto, you can see every question somebody asks of AI and every answer that was provided and all the evidentiary backup. And whether they're using Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, we're multi-model. So everything goes through distilled by Auto. So Auto is looking at every question. It also has something called AI safety, right? Zero hallucination, zero retention on the client side, on the model side. So we're not sending Claude your best business secrets. We're using Claude to do something. They're not allowed to remember what we talked about with them. That idea of like AI safety has been completely thrown out the window. So if I go to Zach and I go to Ellis, I'm like, hey, buy whatever AI tool you want. And you start uploading your financial statements or your drawings or your documents, it's completely unregulated. What you're basically doing is, in the old days of the internet, it's like posting all your most secret, private, confidential information on an open website. And that's what's happening. That people are not understanding that they're opening up the door. When you take a picture of a drawing or upload a PDF of bid and you're like asking questions of it, the reality is you're training that model to make your competitor that much better. And, we were with an interiors contractor in New York who was a very large national competitor. And they said, well, we're using Claude and ChatGPT. And I'm like, you're making your competitor better because they're also using unregulated Claude and ChatGPT. And this is a hard thing for people to understand, but it's the easiest thing. Just imagine you posted all of your deepest, darkest secret on a public website in 1998. That's what people are doing right now. And it's crazy. They have security, safety, SSO, they have Microsoft, they have virus protectors. And then some guy at the job site is taking a picture of a confidential DoD scale project and asking questions of ChatGPT. Throw all that security out the window. That's the reality.
Yeah. And so when we think about, yes, there's loss of memory, there's gaps in security. Somebody in estimating might see one slice of a process. Right. So we use this concept of orchestration. And so
that's right.
If you think about every piece, there are 7 pieces, by the way, in Tetris. And by the way, the record for solving Tetris is 13
I have no idea.
2 years ago, some kid did it in 13 seconds. Beat it.
No, come on.
That's crazy. 13 seconds. We can't quite do that in the real world. But if you think about all of these pieces as individual kind of components of the business, You see on the screen here, it could be a workflow, a department, a document, an AI tool. It's not about the piece itself. And that's what I think people need to remember. It's not about the piece itself. It's about how you fit the pieces together. So can you talk a little bit about like why, if you've listened to webinars, you've heard us talk about orchestration. Why is that an important term to understand?
We have a lot of people on this call. Some are clients and some are prospects. I'll tell you, I think our largest competitor right now is ignorance. When you go in and you think you're going to take a 1,700-page spec book, upload it to ChatGPT, Claude, even people are still using Microsoft Copilot, and ask questions of it, it doesn't understand the context. So I'm going to break down something very, very fundamental. A 1,700-page spec book has over 1 billion points of interest, 1 billion points of interest for a long-term multi-month project. So if you think about it, whether it's the equipment being spec'd, the RFI requirements, how you submit a submittal, how you make a change order work, how you build something, where you put the blocking heights in, how you install stuff, what's behind that wall, 1 billion, 1 billion. ChatGPT, which is writing your kid's essay and giving you this information, is a general use model and it is not working in your behalf. So what orchestration means is taking that document and parsing those billion points of light and putting it in the models that make sense. Claude for calculation, ChatGPT for reasoning, Gemini for quick response to quick questions, and taking the billion items and trunking it so that your company has knowledge, your employees know how to build it, your safety professionals know what the safety requirements are. And those billion items that are coming out of that 1,700-page spec book don't just live in that spec book. So when it says you must refer to OSHA for New York State requirements, that is a fracture from the spec book into the intranet, into understanding what's on the current OSHA website. The reality is orchestration means it takes a 1,700-page spec book and breaks it down to its component part. It atomizes it. It takes the atomic layer and then creates its own knowledge graph for each atom in that spec book. So that whether it's business development, estimating, project management, or accounting, they're using that information in the right way at the right time. And that is not easy. If you just carpet bomb by dragging a spec book into Claude and asking it questions, you'll get hallucinations, mistakes, and basically waste your time. Orchestration is, think of it as a workflow or a process. Think of it as cooking a great Thanksgiving meal. You don't just shove potatoes and gravy and a turkey in the oven, press go, and hope that everything comes out tasting great. You make it with ingredients. Orchestration is the recipe. That's what it is. That's what orchestration is. And AI is great, but so is paprika. But you don't eat a paprika meal. You eat a turkey with paprika inside it. So orchestration is the idea that you need to make a recipe for your company so you have a great meal at the end of it, which is making more money, lowering your risk, and growing your top line. That's what it's about. AI is not about making your chief estimator a little bit less grumpy. It's about making your business better. I think that's the key.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, right, that estimate, you can draw the line between, a good estimate and margin once that job is closed.
Absolutely.
And so imagine if, when you play Tetris, I don't know the last time you played, but I've kind of rediscovered a love for it. It's a very simple game, but it's brilliant. You only get one piece at a time, but imagine if you knew what the next piece was 3 or 4 pieces away. It's the anticipation of, here's what I have to work with. Here is the decision I make now, how that is impacted 3 or 4 or 10 steps later. That's the difference, because without the orchestration piece, it's very reactive. That's
I want to tell a quick story about my old company, an old company I worked for, and I'm not going to. I only worked for two. It's not Royal Bank of Canada, but we were in a competitive. I worked for three. RBC was my banking interlude. Um, we were in there and we were showing a part of our platform called Purchase Genius, which was showing procure to pay orchestration. And they asked, the controller in the room raised a hand and said, I have a question. If I tell Purchase Genius that this vendor does something in a weird way, like talks about discounts differently than another vendor, does Purchase Genius learn that vendor X talks about discounts this way and vendor Y talks about discounts this way? And I'm like sitting in a room, because like I'm deep AI. So I'm like, of course, like what kind of stupid question is that? How would I create a learning loop without a learning loop? Like, AI is your child. It's like we don't put them in a box and give them a sensory deprivation chamber and never let it learn. Of course we let it learn. And they're like, oh yeah, that's a problem with your old company. None of it's learning. And I said, that's not AI. That's just somebody bolting on a Copilot, hoping you get fooled into buying them as an AI first platform. And I always go back to this, and I hate to hearken on this, because Prologue really was, and nobody's young enough to remember or old enough to remember this, but Prologue really was the gold standard. Project management tool. Ellis, you're too young to remember this. They shipped CDs. And you put a CD into your computer and you install Prologue. And the biggest thing that Meridian, who owned Prologue, did was Prologue Network, where it connected to a computer at your office. And then we came along at Procore and we said, it's all on a website. There is no CD. And they're like, what do you mean? That's crazy. And then Prologue said, we're going to come out with Prologue Web. And again, this is a long story, but I'll get to the point. Prologue Web was a website on the CD. And of course it didn't work. That's crazy. You can't put a website on a CD PC. That's not how the internet works. And so that's where we are now. If Procore says, or Salesforce, I love Procore, I still own a lot of stocks, so I'm not going to say anything. But if Salesforce says, hey, I'm just an agent company now, you're not. That's bullshit. It's not true. It's like made up. You can't just change your stripes. You can't go from CD to now I'm AI. You can't go, I'm web and mobile, which requires me to enter data into a screen, to now the data is filled in by AI. It just doesn't work. It's not real. And I think that's the big mental shift that's happening now.
Yeah. And look, you still need, a lot of these kind of, everyone says AI is going to need software. Well, like you still need some of them. I mean, think about what Salesforce is. Really, it's just a
100%
database with a screen. It's still useful as a database.
Yes.
You just need, but it doesn't do anything. It's empty, right?
It's an empty filing cabinet that you fill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, this is why I wanted Zach here from the Gen Z's perspective. So the biggest thing, and I'm going to ask Zach and we'll put him on the spot. The biggest thing that, these people are talking about on this trip is people are coming to construction companies and their expectation is, I call it autofill. They were talking about, so Zach, I'm going to ask you straight out. So one of our clients was talking about their superintendent training program. And they brought in kids your age, Zach, and they were confused as to there's so much data at all the systems they own. So they were in the superintendent training program and they were explaining a daily journal. And a daily journal is where you write down who worked on your site, which vendors showed up, and what you did that day. And one of these very great clients said, somebody your age raised a hand and goes, why do I have to fill this out? You have my phone. You have my photos. You have my email. You can't figure out what I did. I have to tell you. I have to go to another system and tell you what I did after I did it. I already did it. Use AI to figure it out. And that's And I mean, honestly, that's the biggest problem with hiring in this industry. But anyway, Zach, I'd love you to talk through like that concept of what your generation expects.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because like I'm sort of a few years out of college. We would never have seen that before. So it's sort of now the standard is for the ability to have that without having to manually enter that, you know?
Yeah, you would never think of it, right? You would never think.
Yeah, it would feel like a big waste of time and especially when there's other opportunities out there where you could sort of focus more on the strategic parts of a role instead of that main.
Zach, would you use TikTok if you had to tell TikTok what you liked every day so that the feed got better? Or would you only use TikTok if the feed got smarter because of what you did? That's the difference.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Can you imagine if TikTok said, Zach, can you tell me what you liked today? And you're like, but I already liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I mean, so that's the departure where we're at. And I think that's a major, major shift in what this is. People like Zach, even like Ellis or even myself, at my age, they're leaving the industry. At Ellis's age, they're leaving the industry. And at Zach's age, they have no interest in joining this industry. I think that's the biggest problem. I told a story today. I'm going to digress for a second. And we were in the meeting, and there's another great interiors contractor, and they do great work for like CBRE and JLL, and they do amazing build outs. You should see the photos. They're like the coolest office spaces they're building. And their COO said to me, I said, "Oh, that's an amazing, build out. This is, because interiors is sexy, right? Like it looks like they're building offices that look amazing." And he goes, "Yeah, I wish I could build that again." I said, "What do you mean you wish you could build that again?" And he said, "The skilled labor that I had on that project 10 years ago does not exist today. Nobody's coming into this industry." And it made me think about, I love Graham Hancock and Ancient Aliens and Ancient Apocalypse. And it made me think of a trip I took 2 years ago to Machu Picchu. And we were doing the tour, and Machu Picchu is in Peru, if you guys don't know. And it's a beautiful like discovery. And the first 6 layers in Machu Picchu is this pristine, like you've never seen it before. It's like hand-built, gorgeous, like slate, stone, and brick and blocks put together perfectly. And the next layer looks like my 13-year-old threw a bunch of rocks together and glued them in with crayon. And and the tour guide is like, I said, "What happened? Like, this is clearly," he goes, "We clearly had a moment where we lost skills. We had great skills. Something happened and we lost skills." I think we're in that moment now that we have lost skill. And I think AI is, I know everybody's worried AI is going to take their job. I think AI is the only hope that we don't end up like, the Inca and Machu Picchu, throwing a bunch of rocks together with crazy glue, because that's what we're going to end up with. We got to transfer this knowledge of how to build through AI or we're screwed. That's my belief.
Yeah, 100%. And they say that, the future is here. It's just not evenly distributed. It's kind of the jagged frontier. And the reality is different companies are at different places in this journey.
Yes.
Maybe let's talk a little bit about, like, for folks that are on this call and you're thinking about, okay, yes, I agree with these concepts. Yes, I want to kind of plan out, I want to have a roadmap. Depending on where you are on this screen, how do people think about the next steps? What do they need to do to embrace this and to actually get started with it?
So if I was doing this on a whiteboard, I would put the whiteboard up and I would draw a line in the top quadrant of the whiteboard, across the whiteboard. And then I would break that top quadrant or the top part into 3 pieces. Okay. Piece 1 is enhance fee / grow top line. Piece 2 would be stop fee erosion. And piece 3 would be stop investing in overhead. So those are 3 buckets. enhancement, top line, profitability, stop investing in wasteful overhead. And then I would draw a line down. What are the top 3 reasons why my top line isn't growing, in our opinion? Don't just ask yourself, ask other people. What are the top 3 reasons why fee is eroding? And why is the top 3 reason that we throw bodies at problems? That's it. I throw bodies at overhead because AP is hard, is not the right answer. I throw bodies at overhead because my project managers don't put in POs, for instance. My fee is eroded because I wait till closeout to argue about change orders. My top line isn't growing because I don't have enough salespeople, something like that. Do you notice how none of those words have the initials AI in any of them? It's just about running a business. I don't make enough money. I'm not growing fast enough. My profit is not repeatable. And I keep on throwing bodies at problems that are non-recoverable because my processes suck. That has nothing to do with AI. AI is a tool to solve those 3 problems. So don't think about the roadmap as Claude came out with 4.7 Opus. What can I use in 4.7 Opus to make me better? That's upside down. Start with, I keep on losing money on projects. I say I'm going to get 5%, I get 2. Why? And then find the solution of the why. Because AI, to buy AI or so you can talk at a cocktail party that I use AI, is not going to work for you. Because companies are really using AI to solve real problems. And so when I think about transformation, I say, how do you make money? And what are the problems stopping you from making more money, from growing your top line, and to stop throwing bodies at problems that are non-recoverable? Like, you do not get paid back for another AP clerk. You do not get paid back for another set of accountants that have to audit your job. You do not get paid back for a BI person in IT to write your reports. That is non-recoverable revenue. And we are in project-based businesses and construction, we are in the recoverable business. That's the business we're in. We sell hours and we sell subs hours to make money. And if you're not understanding how you make money and how your problems are related to you not making more money and how this new technology is going to help you solve those problems, you're looking at it the wrong way. It's not about, Briq's Auto does sexy stuff. It's Briq's Auto solves hard problems, and that's the difference.
Yeah, 100%. And so I know we're up on time here, Bassem. You have your busy day, busy man in New York today with customer calls, meetings. We're going to kind of wrap up here. I do want to say, Zach, if you want to drop in the roadmap builder, we've built a tool to kind of help you talk through this, and it does exactly what Bassem is talking about. AI is not written on this screen. It's all focused on where are the pain points? What are the things that you want to solve for? We have some common ones that we hear a lot about. And then what this will do, it will generate a roadmap that matches you to a lot of the features that are in Auto, the orchestration engine. And you can talk to Auto as well in this, and it can give you some feedback and some ideas and things that other people are trying to solve for. So kind of great tool to start to wrap your head around this. As always, if you want to go deeper in this, we might have some time for questions, Bassem, if you have time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Zach just dropped it in. If anyone has questions, please drop them in. We have a couple of minutes left. But
Yeah,
this will give you some good insight into, hey, how do I solve this problem? What am I trying to solve for here? How have other companies done this? Great tool to kind of help you think through that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Awesome, guys.
Okay. All right. Well, I see no questions. Thank you, everybody, as always, for joining. Great to be with everyone. Have a great rest of the week, and we hope to see you on the next one.
Yeah, first week of Dallas, first week of June, I'll be in Dallas. So if anybody wants to reach out, happy to talk. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Cheers.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.